Start the recording. Okay, so the recording has started, so you could go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Dr. Christy Eldredge, more commonly known as Dr. E, and I am an associate faculty in the counselor education online department. I specifically teach in the clinical mental health counseling master's program. I've been with this program since before it was built, actually, since I came on board in 2013 with the specific purpose to build the CMHC program. So I've been here a long time. Happy to be here. I live in Denver, Colorado, and also spend a lot of time in Northern Michigan as well.
Nice, nice. My name is Annice Allen. I'm currently a master's student in the mental health counseling program, and I am currently based in Atlanta, Georgia.
Wonderful.
Yes, so we'll go ahead and kick off the interview. I love to get to know the person before the profession. So I'll start with some questions that are related to your past.
Sure.
So, first question, if I asked your high school friends what they thought you would be doing today, what would they say?
They would probably not say teaching, but they would say counseling. I feel very lucky that I've always, well, I shouldn't say always, but since high school, when I took my first psychology class, I've known that I wanted to be in the mental health field. And so I've been able to pursue that in a pretty streamlined course. I would say they would not expect me to be teaching because I was definitely one of the quietest people in my school. I hated giving presentations. I hated people giving me attention, looking to me for answers. Did not feel comfortable with that at all. Um, but I did really enjoy having people come to me with their concerns. I was much more comfortable listening and kind of trying to figure out the why behind, why people were doing certain things and different behaviors or having struggles. So that always made sense for me to be in mental health. And I definitely came out of a service focused family and group of friends. So my heart in my clinical work, I work with survivors of trauma. So working with people who have had harder lives, harder experiences than I've had does fit with, where I was in high school, just being really service minded, wanting to serve others who have had a harder life than I've had.
Gotcha. That's really awesome that you were able to like identify that at a really young age and say, okay, this is what I'm doing, stay the course. And
Mhm.
now you are a doctor.
Yeah, I feel very lucky that I knew that from such an early age because I know that that's not a common experience. Um, so yeah, I think that that's something I'm grateful for.
And you mentioned that you came from a service family. Which career did your parents want you to choose?
Well, my father was a pediatrician. He was one of the only pediatricians in town who took Medicare and Medicaid. Um, and so that was always a really big deal that he was always on call. He worked a ton and he had such a heart for families um, who could really benefit from extra resources. My mom was a teacher and she also worked a bit with my father in his pediatric office. And my mom was very strong in her spirituality, so she was always volunteering, and she was always. Both my parents would go on service-focused trips through their church, which was a very social justice-focused church. Um, so that was just always a common thread in our family was to put others before your own needs.
Gotcha. I love that.
Yeah.
What member of your family has had the greatest impact on your current way of thinking?
Probably my mother, to that point of giving to others and being kind above all else. My mom is just one of the best people anybody could ever meet. I would say she is extremely compassionate and gentle and kind. and really just has a heart for everybody that she meets. Even when she's going through a hard time, she still prioritizes, and not to the point of being a martyr. There we need a balance of helping others and tending to ourselves. She has a pretty good balance, but she's always modeled and mentored me in caring for others and being kind to others.
She sounds awesome. And it sounds like you carried that spirit into the profession as well.
So I hope so.
So we're going to switch gears here a bit to get to know you as Dr. E. I like to consider this office hours edition, so outside of the classroom. If you had a theme song that played whenever you walked in a room full of people, what would it be?
Gosh. Oh man, theme song. I mean, gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank on a theme song. One of my favorite songs, and a song that I would, kind of live by or feel like is my theme song, is "Closer to Fine" by the Indigo Girls, which is sort of it speaks to, don't take life too seriously, like do your best, and we're fine. And kind of when you let your guard down, and you let things go, you're closer to fine. So I guess I don't know if that would play when I entered a room, but that is a song I live by, I would say.
I'll have to listen to that one.
It's a good one. It's an old one, but it's a good one.
What is the most common compliment people have given you?
Hmm. I do get the compliment that I have a very calm energy a lot. And that's very humbling, and a compliment I really take to heart, because I do want to create a space and an energy with other people where they can feel calm or safe or respected when they're with me, knowing that I really want to listen to them. I really want to know who they are as a person. So, and especially since I work with a lot of people who have experienced pretty severe trauma, especially relational trauma, having people tell me that I have a calm energy is a big deal to me. So I'm grateful that that's something that people notice and experience.
That is really important with this profession. So
Yeah.
that's a huge compliment. What are some incorrect assumptions people have made about you, and how did that impact you?
Yeah, people have made, I'd say especially in high school and college, and probably continuing now. So though I guess I don't know that that'll bother me as much. I have one of those faces, and I'm always thinking that is not the kindest looking face when I'm at rest, because I'm, usually like thinking hard about something. So I have a scowl, and so a lot of times people have assumed and ultimately told me once we got to know each other that they thought I was not friendly, or they thought I was snobby, or didn't want to, I was too good, that I thought I was too good to talk to them, when really I was probably feeling very shy and awkward and in my own head. Um, just unfortunately have a natural scowl when I'm not engaged, which it's something when I was younger, I kind of berated myself for that. And as you get older, I guess that comes with more self acceptance of like, I look the way I look. And, when I meet people, they will learn that I'm very friendly, but can't control what other people assume about me.
Me too. I've gotten that as well. But usually I find that any of the women that have gotten that are usually calm, friendly, the sweetest people. We're
Yes.
just thinking really hard.
In our heads. Yep. Just in our heads.
If you had your own talk show, who would your first three guests be and why?
Hmm. One would be Dr. Bruce Perry. He is a trauma researcher, clinician, and author. I believe he's a psychiatrist, but he does therapy, and he has written several books. And he just, I really appreciate his um, his research and his take on understanding trauma from a relational and neurobiological framework. And the reason I think I would have him on is because he does such a nice job of explaining it in a way that anybody can understand. He's also someone who you can really feel his heart for the work and for the people he works with come through in interviews and books that he writes. So I've always really wanted to see him speak. So I would certainly invite him on. Gosh, let's see who else. Well, I would probably also invite, I mean, if I could invite a team of people as one guest, I would want to invite the women's gymnastics team who they went to Brazil for the Brazil Olympics. I grew up doing gymnastics my whole life, like through college, and I was a coach and did some sports psychology work with gymnasts. And given my passion, my kind of historical passion for gymnastics, combined with my passion for trauma, that team has become very big advocates in the recent years when there has been some, scandal and a lot of gymnasts coming out speaking about the sexual abuse that they received in the course of their training. And so that team in particular has had several leaders in advocating for their right to speak out, and kind of mentoring others to kind of work through the shame that comes from surviving abuse. So I would want to speak to all of them, both from their kind of gymnastics side and their survivor side. And let's see, a third guest. I'm not good at these impromptu what if questions. I don't know. You got me stumped on a third one. I would want it to be someone totally outside of the mental health field, somebody maybe fun, maybe in the entertainment business. Who it would probably be. Recently, I've been listening to more comedy to try to balance out the heaviness of life. And a comic that I've really enjoyed lately is Tig Notaro. I don't know if you know her, but she is just very dry, very kind of sarcastic. I mean, I love the dry sarcasm, and she's got some funny stuff out there. So I would want to invite her on to maybe lighten up the episodes, since those are some pretty heavy topics with my first two guests.
Yeah, those are some pretty good ones. I enjoy gymnastics. That's usually my favorite thing to watch on the Olympics. So I'll have to check them out and see, how good they are. And I really do enjoy that. And comedy is also just just a nice little relief. I'm not sure if you watch Working Moms on Netflix, which is like a dry humor. So I enjoy them.
I love that dry humor. So funny. Yeah, and you need that. I mean, I think that's a really important piece when you're in this field, is to have some kind of way where you can laugh at absurdity, laugh at things that maybe you otherwise would cry about. Laughter is such a healthy component to have in our lives.
I agree. So some of the final questions, they'll be a little bit more tailored towards career. So what was your first job and how did it prepare you for your current role?
My first job, I did have a couple kind of minor jobs. I think my first official job was serving frozen yogurt at TCBY, the country's best yogurt. And I enjoyed it a little too much that summer. I gained some summer pounds with the free small frozen yogurt you got every day of working. And so that stuck with me for a little while. But more significant, my first kind of job I was passionate about was coaching gymnastics. And that for sure has influenced where I've come, because like I shared before, I was extremely quiet and shy and introverted, and I didn't want to talk in front of anybody. But I was so confident in the gym. Like that was just where I loved to be. So it was such a natural bridge for me to then start to put myself in front of others as a coach. And I really enjoyed seeing the kids develop and creating a team cohesion and bringing in some of the psychological aspects of training. So I stuck with that job. I started that job when I was 14 and stuck with it through college. Um, I would probably still love it today if I was still doing it if I had time. So that's definitely the first job that really meant something to me.
I love that. I love how, like, we all come from different walks of life, and how something just completely unrelated to the field could impact you
Hmm.
in that big way. So that's interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
What is the best conference or workshop that you have ever attended?
I like to attend. There are two conferences that I really like to attend. Um, Probably my most favorite is every fall in Toledo. The University of Toledo puts out a conference that is called the International Human Trafficking and Social Justice Conference. I love this conference for a number of reasons. One, it's interdisciplinary, so it's not just a bunch of counselors going and presenting, which can be wonderful. But a lot of times, when you're at a strictly mental health conference, you get some of the same topics over and over again. At this conference, they have law enforcement, they have survivor leaders, they have community advocacy groups, they have mental health counselors. So getting to hear, and I'm passionate about human trafficking, about preventing human trafficking is a better way of saying that, and working with survivors of human trafficking. So while I can go and share my expertise from the clinical perspective, I can then go to other people's workshops that see it from, like I said, the medical perspective or the law enforcement perspective, because I know that my clients are going to need that multidisciplinary approach. So I just feel like I've learned so much, and there's so much diversity at that conference in every kind of way. So that's my favorite, and I promote that to students, every year. It's actually affordable. If you present, you can attend for free. So if any students are listening to this, and including you, if that's an interest, I really encourage people to consider going to that conference and maybe presenting. Um, Another conference that I try to go to every year is the International Society for the Study of Trauma and Dissociation, which is a mouthful. But with my work with complex trauma, I work with people who have dissociative disorders. And that's a very complicated and sadly still controversial area of the field, especially when you get into some of the traumatic experiences that some folks have. Sometimes it's just too hard to believe. People don't want to believe what some people have been through. So being able to connect with other clinicians who are doing the same work, who've maybe been ahead of where I am, who can mentor me when I'm stuck, who can offer presentations on topics that you wouldn't otherwise hear anybody talking about. Those are really important for me to go to continue my learning in that area.
Those both sound really interesting. I'll have to check those out.
Ones, I really enjoy them.
Yeah. So, final question: what is the last book that you have read?
Okay, so the last pleasure book that I read was Where the Crawdads Sing. And I do enjoy, reading for pleasure. That's one of my favorite outlets. I do tend to read like 6 books at once for work, because I listen to some as audiobooks, like when I'm walking my dog or driving to work or whatever. And then I will listen or read a bit, based on what my clients need. So I'm looking at my bookshelf right now to see what I'm reading. I'm reading, it's not a new approach, but it's newer to me, called The Developmental Needs Meeting Strategy by Shirley Jean Schmidt. That's a very good one. I did a little while ago. I read "What Happened to You" by Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry, which is one I recommend for everybody. Um, and then let's see, what is this one? The State of Affairs: Rethinking Infidelity is another one. So a lot of these books I will pick up or read if I know that I've got clients that are struggling with some of these topics. And then finding an author, like the author of this book, Esther Perel, is just a wonderful couples counseling expert. So if I know that I really love the way that they think or write, then I'll kind of gobble up all of their books. So that was the case with that one. And it applies, and I just love that author. So those are a few that I'm reading now.
I love that. Love that. I'm also an audiobook listener too. Like if you're in the car for a long period of time or you're outdoors, it's easier to consume the audiobooks these days.
Yes. And that one, I should say though, I keep looking over because I'm looking at it on my shelf. The "What Happened to You" book is excellent as an audiobook, because it's essentially a conversation between Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry. So, like I said before, he can really explain trauma and the neurobiology and all the intricate details in a way that is so easy to understand, especially when he's just having a chat with Oprah about it. Like they're not just talking over lunch, but they're talking in such a casual way about really complicated topics. So if that's an interest for anyone, I would actually recommend that as an audiobook first. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, that is the end of the 10 Big Questions interview. It was such a pleasure interviewing you, Dr. E.
Mm,
Amazing. I had a
I
great time.
I did too. Thanks for making that a fun experience.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.